The 2023 Women Influence and Power in Law Conference heads to New Orleans, October 17th through 19th, 2023. Secure your ticket today and get 3 days of guidance and insights around risk management, the future of litigation, crafting an ESG strategy, the ever-changing role of legal leaders, and much more. Plus, get full access to 3 keynote presentations, 10 plus hours of dedicated networking, 20 roundtables across 2 days, and new this year, a welcome reception on Monday evening to kick off the 2023 program. Legal Speak will be there for live podcast episodes, so stop on by. Learn more and register today at www.event.law.com/corpcounsel-WIPL.
I'm Zack Needles, and this is Legal Speak, where we break down what's happening in the legal industry. Today, we are interviewing attendees of our GCC East conference in Brooklyn. I am sitting down right now with Joseph Panetta, who is the Global Head of Marketing and Head of Innovation US at Mediation. Joseph, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with us.
So good to be here. Thank you.
So, first of all, let's just start off by, telling me a little bit about what your company does and what your role is there.
Sure. A mediation is an online dispute resolution platform. We're comprised of about 43 different modules that can be configured to match and digitize and synergize any dispute resolution process. So it's mediation, arbitration, and we do litigation with courts as well. Founded in Australia about 6 years ago, used extensively in the APAC region, and we've been making our way into the United States since I joined the company about 2.5 years ago.
Excellent. And so what brings you to GCC East today? What were you sort of hoping to get out of coming here?
We're really excited to talk with General Counsel, both here and we did the GC Summit Midwest in Chicago as well. We're here to talk about the changing face of mediation. Something that a lot of GCs don't feel empowered to do is to share with their C-suite officers that there are other forms of dispute resolution other than litigation. As an example, like why use a bazooka when a hammer might do, right? So around the world, we've seen that there's a mediation pilot in the EU for all IP cases. In Egypt, all family and economic cases must go to mediation first. In New Zealand, there's a proactive mediation for banks before any kind of farm or small business goes into receivership. In Canada, mandatory mediation for civil lawsuits. And obviously here in the United States, we have Part 60 and Part 160, the two new rules of legislation that are being floated before the New York Supreme Court to install mediation before any form of litigation for certain kinds of cases. So mediation's growing. And it's not just the types of disputes. So no longer is mediation considered to be like, the bastion of family courts for custody and divorce and that sort of thing. Witness, one of our speakers tomorrow at our roundtable is Ross Cartes from Ruskin, Moscow, and Faltischek. His colleague, Ruskin, negotiated the Fox News Dominion voting machine lawsuit. He mediated that settlement. Now, why would something that goes for, works for family court and custody cases be used in something like that? Because of confidentiality, right? That's why. Ultimately, all mediation settlements are confidential. So I'm sure that, the people at Fox News probably didn't want all those text messages floating around in Discovery.
Right.
So those are some of the examples that we plan to share with GCs, as well as arm them with some information from our partner Equinim in France. It's a growing mediation center there that's staffed by a lot of C-suite officers from public and private companies. And their role is basically to help companies that are going through disputes to find ways to save the relationship. Because very often if you have a dispute with a vendor or a business partner, the value of this dispute is often less than the value of the overall relationship. So why throw a nuclear bomb on it with a big litigation process that takes years when you can more speedily and creatively come to a consensus?
That's really interesting. And you answered my next question, I think, but if there's any more that you want to add, feel free. But the idea that, for a GC, the attractiveness, or what should be the attractiveness of mediation over litigation in some situations, it's not just about cost. It's about, like you said, saving the relationship, the confidentiality? Are there other advantages to mediation?
Absolutely. One of the hardest things about arbitration and litigation is that the results, the awards or the orders, are typically black or white. It's one side wins, one side loses, right? There's always that kind of outcome. In mediation, there's this fallacy that if everybody walks away equally unhappy, it's a successful negotiation. The truth of the matter is you can have so much more creativity when a really well-mediated settlement. If you and your other party are having an argument and one of you really, really likes beer, you could basically put into the negotiated settlement that you get a case of beer every week for the next 2 years.
Right.
And as silly as an example that may seem, it's supposed to open a doorway into the creativity and the potential outcomes that mediation can offer that arbitration and mediation simply can't, because they're hemmed in by rules. Now, the reason why we're advocating mediation specifically as an online dispute resolution platform is because you can execute it well remotely. It reduces travel costs and expenses. It encourages participation. The ability for the right parties to upload any kind of evidence or any kind of things into the platform securely. It is the most secure platform. You can hold the hearings or conferences securely. It's no other video platform. We actually developed it from the ground up. And these business relationships that you can salvage as a result are actually worth more at the end of the day to your shareholders, to your employees, and to your bottom line.
And I'm wondering, too, we've been hearing so much about in-house departments bringing more work in-house, doing more of their own litigation rather than, spending all this money on all this firepower with outside counsel. And, going back to your metaphor about, the bazooka, like, is mediation something that can more easily be handled by the legal department without having to pay, partners at some big law firm to deal with these issues, or is that not necessarily the case?
I think it's both. I don't think that they are mutually exclusive. And by that I mean a well-run mediation is run well by a seasoned mediator. And the ability to find someone who's got the expertise in your particular argument. So if it's about, remember when the Suez Canal was blocked for 10 days by the Dutch ship?
Yeah.
There's something like 137 lawsuits that have already been filed. Many of them will go to arbitration, but they're between shipping companies. Right? And the shipping companies and the delivery sources and all that, they actually need each other. So you might want to have a mediator in that room that has a special expertise in maritime issues.
Right.
And what those mean. And the beauty of mediation is you can go and find that person. And again, they may live in New Zealand. They may live in Greece, right? But they can attend your mediation and conduct it on a platform like a mediation because we give you the ability to do everything you could do in a room online. Total control over it. You make sure the parties are separated. Nothing is recorded. Settlement agreements can be preloaded, and you can actually co-author them. The pen can be passed from one party to the next. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this, and I think the answer to your question is both and. You definitely need a law firm, but by the same token, you can find a mediator, or they can help you find a mediator to execute this on your behalf.
Excellent. And, obviously you're talking about remote proceedings here, basically, and there's been a lot of debate over that as well. Ever since the pandemic restrictions have subsided a little bit, there's this discussion about, well, should we get back to more in-person litigation, in-person court proceedings? Obviously, mediation is a little different from that, but have you found more customers embracing the idea of doing this stuff remotely post-pandemic?
Yes, we have, for a number of reasons. The first is I can tell you from a court's perspective. The Guardian wrote an article that's last October saying that the pandemic added 6 years to the backlog. And most of the judges we've spoken with have said the backlog will not be solved by trying more cases. It will be solved by getting cases out of the pipeline that are better served by other methods, like mediation and arbitration. That's one thing. The second thing is a deputy GC from ConocoPhillips, who we met recently, said that her entire C-suite edict is they are no longer going to attend any sessions or interviews or anything like that in person. They're going to do everything remotely when they can. She said getting the CEO, the CFO, or any of the officers out of their office for days or a week or however long it's going to take, away from their work, in a room where they can't be using their phones and can't be using their computers and are separated from their job, is too onerous.
Sure.
So a hybrid situation where they can pop in and out on an as-needed basis is much more preferable to them. So it's not so much the cost of the activity, it's the opportunity cost, right? It's the unwritten cost that you're actually saving. And that's the part that's really appealing for GCs.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense to me. Well, Joseph, before I let you go, let me just ask you, what are you sort of looking forward to for the rest of the GCC East event?
Well, we have our roundtable discussion tomorrow, and outside of Ross, we have Rachel Gupta from Gupta Dispute Resolutions, and the thing that I love about bringing her along for this conversation is that she's been in the GC seat before, and she's been a deputy GC, and she's been a litigator, and she's been a New York State mediator. She's literally sat in every chair you can sit in. If anybody can offer a perspective that enables the GCs to see the light, this is the person.
Excellent. Well, Joseph, thanks so much for taking some time out to chat with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Zach.